Greetings, everybody. My name is James. I am from the internet, and today we are going to be talking about the thin blue line. Now, I know it probably feels like it's been a hot minute since I have discussed the fine men and women who are backing the blue and make up the thin blue line. You know, the Popo, 5.0, Johnny on the Spot, the fine folks who put the C in ACAB. Yeah, them. Well, you would be right. I don't think I've done a police story in the better part of a month, mostly because I've been focused on labor issues, people going on strike, actual workers and members of the working class demanding a better quality of life. And as the police are not members of the working class, they are indeed class traders whose job is solely to protect private property and not members of the working class, I leave them out of that category. However, like the good boys and girls they are, they have managed, even in the middle of all of this labor unrest, to briefly, once again, take away the front page from the workers, the working class, and the plight of those people. So, since the police want to be on the front page, the least I can do today is discuss them with you and do a brief check-in before we go back to discussing people and working matters that, well, actually fucking matter. Here we go! 5 times as many police officers have died from COVID-19 as from gunfire since the start of the pandemic. That's right. The people who conservatives believe are out there to protect the general populace, the people who are loving family members and parents, you know, the people who care the most about society, and that's why they're protecting us from us. Yeah, those people, apparently they still aren't getting vaccinated, and as such, more than 400% differential between the number of police who have been shot since the start of COVID versus the number of police who have actually died from COVID. Jessica Desfosses shared the final heart-rending text messages she exchanged with her police officer husband in the days before he died of COVID-19. Quote, commercial just came on TV with a casket saying, take COVID seriously. Zero consideration for those of us fighting for every breath, Stephen Desfosses wrote in a series of exchanges that began last Christmas Eve as his condition steadily deteriorated in a Massachusetts hospital. You know, the guy who didn't get vaccinated yet thinks it's very odd that people have zero consideration for people who get COVID and are struggling to stay alive. Don't worry, I'm going to let you take a moment and really think about that. And we'll move on. Detective Sergeant Stephen Desfosses, 52, a veteran of more than 30 years with the Norton Police Department, died on January 13th. He was one of at least 231 officers who died of COVID this year, according to the Officer Down Memorial page. There were 245 law enforcement deaths from COVID-19 in 2020, according to the same page. Now, before all the conservatives jump into the comment section and tell me that I'm coming at them with weird, skewed, libturd facts that aren't actually facts and they're alternative facts, you know, just to make the police look like they don't give a fuck about themselves or their families, well, let me show you the Officer Down Memorial page. This page is now the #1 largest 5013C working on memorializing fallen police officers. Police officer unions actually work with them to report deaths of officers in the line of duty so that they can be remembered and memorialized for their sacrifice. As you can see, so far this year, there have been a total of 362 police deaths in the line of duty, 231 of them from COVID, 49 of them from gunfire. Sergeant David G. Crumpler died of COVID. First Sergeant Timothy Lee Howell died of COVID. Lieutenant William Lyle Gardner dead from COVID. Are you getting the idea here, people? This seems to be endemic within the police department because we have been led to believe that people shooting at the police is literally something that happens every day, and that there are literally mobs of Black Lives Matter protesters and Antifers out there who are just, killing off police officers left and right. But it turns out the thing killing police officers at an overwhelming rate is police officers. Quote, if you are serious about your commitment to protect the public, and if you are serious about your personal commitments to your family, then that should be enough, Jessica Desfosses said in a plea for police officers to get vaccinated. Her appeal comes as law enforcement officers and their unions across the country have resisted vaccine mandates, despite the Delta variant-fueled resurgence of COVID-19 and effectiveness of the shots in preventing severe cases and death. Reasons cited for the vaccine resistance among law enforcement officers range from disinformation to distrust in the science of vaccines. The same exact parallel reasons given on a large scale by conservative Republicans in the United States of America. Again, no surprise, this is the demographic, cultural skew within which the majority of law enforcement officers fall under here in the United States of America, with a brief reminder that there are currently more than 1 million police officers in the United States of America. The debate mirrors growing tension nationally between unions and employers as cities and businesses seek to enforce vaccine mandates. Quote, you're not drafted into this job. This is something you volunteer for. Really? Volunteers get paid and they get awesome medical benefits paid for by everybody else who lives in the state? Wow, that's wild. I should definitely volunteer more often so I can make $140,000 a year and get sweet bennies. Cool. You understand when you take the job, it's going to require some sacrifice on your part in a lot of different ways. And speaking of drafted and being on the job and vaccine mandates, I would like to take another break and briefly remind you that it is estimated that currently 1/3 of all people serving in police forces as an active duty law enforcement officer are former military. They go directly from the military into law enforcement because they have tons of combat training and range time, and they're very good at taking orders, doing what they're told without discussing it or thinking about it. They are quite literally the perfect person to become a police officer in today's modern United States law enforcement setting. And all of those people, A, when they go to basic training, and B, when they are deployed overseas, are vaccinated with all of these vaccines on the screen. 2/3 of which I know, and about 2/3 of which I can pronounce. But that is a big-ass list. Yet, all of these people who swore to uphold the Constitution and had no problem with their freedom and their rights being taken away by vaccine mandates didn't say shit when they went into the military office, signed the fucking recruitment letter, got taken to the military tent in the back, and briefly got shot up with about 30 fucking vaccines before they even got shipped off to day one at basic training. In Chicago, up to half of the rank-and-file officers in the nation's second largest police department face being placed on unpaid leave as their union and Mayor Lori Lightfoot clash over a city requirement that officers disclose their vaccine status. Lightfoot on Friday accused police union president John Catanzara of trying to induce an insurrection by telling officers to ignore a deadline to report vaccine status. In Miami, officers are resisting a vaccine mandate. In Pittsburgh, the police chief sent out emails encouraging officers to protect themselves as the Delta variant sent COVID-19 cases soaring. In Seattle, the police department had, quote, all non-patrol sworn personnel, detectives, training, and support staff ready to respond to emergency calls ahead of Monday's vaccination mandate deadline. This is happening all over the country. And again, this is majority police unions telling rank-and-file membership to not disclose their vaccination status and to keep pushing against vaccine mandates, even though almost 500 police officers have died from COVID-19 since the beginning of 2020. Michael Weiskopf, 52, a police officer in St. Petersburg, Florida, died on August 27th after battling COVID-19 for about a month. He was an 18-year law enforcement veteran. Quote, "This was horrible and it did not have to happen," said his widow, Karen Weiskopf. "He was so strong, so healthy. He was my best friend. Perfect husband." Karen said she's vaccinated, but her husband was reluctant. She even tried several times to convince him. Quote, "He wasn't sure what was in the vaccine. I felt like Mike did not get vaccinated because he didn't have all the facts," she said. "There's a lot of information just kind of moving around. Science leaves the picture, it just becomes chatter." Ah, okay. So it was the social media that told Michael to be hesitant about the vaccine because he didn't know what was in the vaccine. Also, Michael doesn't know what was in the ink that was used in the ink gun when he got all of his tattoos, but he got that anyway. So what does this mean for you, the average viewer at home, the fellow member of the working class? Well, first of all, it means you should be going even further out of your way than usual to end up in situations where you're forced to deal with law enforcement because there's a better than 50-50 shot that the law enforcement officer who will be breathing all over you during your interaction with him will A, not be vaccinated, and B, most assuredly, will not be wearing a mask. So, as if you didn't have enough reasons to avoid the police before, well, now you can throw 2 more on the pile. However, the larger issue here is that the police unions are trying to form this as a labor dispute argument and not an argument about public health and public well-being. And again, it's because of the ideological warfare, because the majority of police are conservatives and the majority of people who believe in science and vaccines are not. Ergo, if those people are getting vaccines and telling us to get vaccines, well then, we're going to tell our members that they should resist all vaccine tests, resist all vaccine mandates, and comply as little as possible. Because we don't comply. We're law enforcement. We enforce the law. We literally make up the laws as we go along and arrest people for crimes and charges that don't even exist. Why? Because we are the power and we are the ones who decide our own fate. We man the thin blue line. And as such, nobody, and I mean nobody, gets to tell us what to do because we are the ultimate authority. And to that, I would say, if you believe in the good Lord above, well, he doesn't seem to agree with you, and neither does science, neither does math, and neither does statistics. So everybody, please gently encourage the unvaccinated around you to at least possibly take another look at getting vaccinated, because the proof is in the pudding. And if you don't believe me, well, maybe you can believe the police death reporting statistics. Until next time, my name is James. I am from the internet, and I am out. Peace.